Hey everyone, intuitive and astrologer Lisa Salvatore here to talk to you about Venus's transit through the sign of Leo and the upcoming Venus retrograde that we will have taking place later on this summer. Now, obviously, if I'm doing a video about this, you're going to want to know this information. And even if you don't really know astrology that well, if you're just starting to dabble with astrology, I do not want you to attach yourself to the astrological jargon of what I am saying. I want you to feel what I am saying, to feel the energy of what is going on, the gravity of what is going on, and what this can mean for you personally, how this can feel for you. Again, you do not have to be an astrology buff to understand energy. Energy is everything. We all feel energy, okay? So chances are, if you're here because you stumbled upon this. Maybe you Googled Venus retrograde and what it means, or Venus in general. And I'm going to talk to you about that briefly and let you understand, or help you to understand at a deeper and different level, at a more spiritual level, what the planetary movements can represent for us here on the earth plane. Because remember, whatever is going on in the sky is merely a mirror for what is going on down here below. As above, so below. So first things first, who is Venus? Okay, astronomically speaking, Venus is the second closest planet to the sun, right after Mercury, okay? So Venus does not stray far from the orbit of the sun. Venus will move through the zodiac every 2 to 3 weeks. She will shift into the next sign. This is her natural behavior, her natural orbit. Now, what does Venus represent? Venus is the planet. She is known as the goddess of love and pleasure, okay? Venus governs over our tastes, our aesthetics, what we like, what we find pleasing, what we're attracted to. Venus is all about connection. It's the way that we love, who and what we love, and who and what we value. Venus speaks a lot to our value systems. Venus is all about our self-esteem, the way we perceive ourselves in our own unique sensual energy. Venus is sensuality and grace. We all have a Venus, and whatever sign Venus falls in your birth chart is going to tell a story about your own love nature, your own relationship to not only other people, but to self and to your finances, because Venus also governs over money. Venus is the planet that rules the signs of both Taurus and Libra. So think about everything that Taurus and Libra represent and then pull Venus into the mix. Venus likes things to be nice. Okay, so now backtracking, that is what Venus represents. Venus is known to be sweet. Now, of course, Venus has her shadow side, regardless of her placement. And we are going to see a lot of that play out over the next couple of months, and I'm about to tell you why. So like I mentioned, Venus moves through the zodiac. She switches signs every 2 to 3 weeks. Venus entered Leo back on June 5th. Now, this is significant because Venus will remain in Leo until October 8th. That is a very long time for Venus to be in one sign, okay? Remember, 2 to 3 weeks per sign, and Venus is going to be in Leo for about 4 months, a little over 4 months, because this is going to include a Venus retrograde. Now, you've probably heard about Mercury retrograde. We all know about Mercury retrograde, the dreaded Mercury retrograde, which is really not all that bad. But Mercury will station retrograde 3 times per year, sometimes 4, but usually it's 3. For about 3 to 4 weeks at a time. We know it's coming. There's jokes about it on the internet. There's a lot of information about it on the internet. Mercury represents communication, technology, all of that jazz. But Venus, when Venus stations retrograde, we sit up and we take notice at a much deeper level, even if we're not conscious of it, even if it's happening unconsciously, because it only happens once about every 18 months. So it's a bigger deal when Venus stations retrograde. Now, for frame of reference, if you can, think back to 2015, because that was when Venus was last in Leo and stationing retrograde. So we had a Venus retrograde through the fire sign of Leo back in July of 2015 through September of 2015. So think back to what was going on for you in the Venus areas of life, or in the Leo area of your birth chart, if you want to go one step further. And linked below, you'll find a video that tells you how to locate the planets in your birth chart, so check that out. But you also want to pay attention to where Leo falls in your chart, because that is where Venus is going to be spending some time, some extended time for the next couple of months. And Venus is going to be bringing things up for you. Now, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but we will all feel it. What we love, who we love, what we value, our connections, our relationships, all of that is going to come under the microscope. Now, again, this does not have to be an external process or an external event. It can be on the internal level, but it can also certainly be on the external level. All right, so Venus entered Leo on June 5th, and immediately Venus went into a clash with Pluto, the planet of power and transformation and control. And this is really interesting because Venus is all about love, beauty, connection. She's sweet. Venus is all about pleasure at the end of the day, right? Pluto, on the other hand, can be painful. Pluto wants to strip to the bottom of everything. Pluto digs, okay? I refer to Pluto as the garbage man in astrology because Pluto wants to take out what isn't working to bring forth new life. Everything with Pluto, under Pluto, that goes away is permanent. The key word for Pluto is permanence. There's a reason that Pluto rules the sign of Scorpio and also rules over the death card in the tarot, because when something dies, when we die, or when a part of us dies, it doesn't come back, but it can be reborn differently, okay? We can ascend higher. And that's the point of Pluto. So think about this. Venus, our connection, our love nature, starts her transit off in Leo, the fire sign that's big and bold, and it's a lot of energy, and it's dramatic and theatrical, for better or worse. Leo wants to take center stage. Here I am. Look at me. I'm shiny. Don't gloss over me. Know my worth. Know my value. But here's the trick. You have to know your worth, and you have to know your value. So if you are a Leo, you're going to really be feeling this Venus through Leo transit, especially when we get to the retrograde at the end of July. Now, everyone's going to be feeling it. But more significantly, if you are a Leo, if your sun, your ascendant, or your moon fall in the sign of Leo, and or your Venus, you will feel this transit strongly. Also, if your sun, your moon, your rising, or your Venus fall under the sign of Taurus or Libra, you are going to be feeling this because Venus is the planetary ruler of both Taurus and Libra, like I mentioned. And then our other fire signs, Aries and Sagittarius, especially if it's the sun, the moon, or the rising sign, or your Venus, you're going to be receiving a nice, soft aspect of Venus through Leo. It's going to support your fiery energy. But again, everything has its shadow side. So you don't want to get too big for your britches under this energy either, because there's going to be a high potential for that. Remember, at the core of this, it's about who and what you value the most. And you must honor your own love nature, your own heart, your own soul, because the most important relationship that you will ever have, as we know, is the one to self. And you must honor yourself. To thy own self be true. The only way you can truly connect authentically to others is if you are connecting authentically to your own heart and honoring and acknowledging your needs. And sometimes that means that we have to rid ourselves or walk away from toxic or unhealthy or dead-end relationships and situations in our lives. This could also be a job for some people. So again, think about what came up for you, what emotions were coming up for you back on June 5th, moving on throughout the week to June 8th, because then Venus went on to clash with the North and South nodes, which are all about the destiny of the soul. This talks about where we are headed, where we are going, where we are coming from, and what we need to release, the toxicity in our lives, mind, body, spirit, what we need to release from our physical reality, Taurus, so that we can then excel and ascend through the spiritual reality and get more in touch with our own true nature and heart, Venus and Leo. So that is really what this Venus through Leo transit is all about. So again, think about what has come up for you. I can tell you myself, I had an emotional situation that really sparked me come up at the very beginning of Venus entering Leo. And I guarantee that everybody else did as well. And it might even seem very minor or insignificant, but when you dig into it, Pluto, okay, because Venus started her transit through Leo, opposite Pluto, power, control, something likely was presented to you, even if only on the internal level, could also be externally through another in your life or a situation in your life. But something likely came up for you, okay? Having to do with your own worth, your own value. Maybe you're being undervalued. Maybe you didn't see the true value of somebody or something and it was brought to your attention. Relationship dynamics, power dynamics within one or more important relationships in your life. Something likely came up for you from underneath the surface, from the soul, from the psyche, because that is exactly what Venus's entrance into Leo, opposite Pluto, is supposed to do for us. We are not supposed to stay the same. We know this. And the only way out is through. And yes, we know that growth can be painful, but it will bring us closer to our truth. All right, so again, Venus entered Leo on June 5th, right away in a clash with Pluto. Venus then went on to clash with the North and South node, reminding us of where we might still need to let go to grow. Doesn't mean you have to do it yet, but you're being reminded, you're being poked. It's becoming glaringly obvious that this is going to be a theme for you the next couple of months. And again, check where Leo is in your birth chart, because I guarantee that that will be the area where you're feeling it. And those will be the relationships that are under fire, under question, or circumstances pertaining to that area of life. And this is about matters of the heart taking center stage. Any intimacy issues, they're going to come up. And yes, they're going to feel uncomfortable, but that is the point to shift it, to work through it. It's very, very karmic. That is why these transits don't come around all that often. And think back to 2015 to where you were emotionally, physically, spiritually, and see how and if it resonates to this time period right now and what is going on in your current reality. Because look, this is Venus in Leo. This is dramatic. This is bold. This is brash. This is in our face, okay? And it can be very abrupt and abrasive at times and can cause drama. But this is precisely for the purpose to get us to sit up and pay attention, to call to our attention what we can no longer skate by with, what we cannot ignore any longer. Again, whatever's coming up right now is setting the stage for this Venus retrograde. We are getting to the root of our core relationship issues, both to self and others. We've all got them. Also, our deepest desires are going to become painstakingly obvious to us, very, very obvious to us. They're going to feel urgent. They're going to feel heated. They're supposed to. You're being shown something significant about yourself and about others in your reality. And these are relationship dynamics. We're going to have our feet put to the fire in more ways than one. It's not always going to feel comfortable. And remember, one of the strongest things, one of our strongest desires here as human beings, because remember, we are souls here having a human experience. It's not the other way around. And one of the things here about being human is we really desire connection. We all want connection. We all want people to love us and see us and accept us for who we truly are. But guess what? That doesn't always happen because we are afraid to be vulnerable a lot of times. And so are others. So we're going to be shown where we may be holding ourselves back. We're going to be presented with situations to be honorable, to be truthful, to express ourselves so that we can truly connect. Because remember, Venus and Leo, it all goes back to our heart, what's in our heart. And I'm going to use the words of one of my favorite astrologers, Anne Ortley. She always says, if it's in your heart, it's in your chart. So remember, this is in your chart. So if you want a private consultation, I've just opened up my calendar. Check it out. Linked below. I can give you a full-on reading. It won't just be about Venus. It will be about everything because this is all very karmic and it is coming full circle. Remember, it's Venus and Leo. It's loud. It's obvious. It's captivating. So you also don't have to worry. I want to stress this. You don't have to worry about solving anything. You just have to observe, especially when we get into the retrograde, which is going to happen on July 22nd. Because remember, retrogrades are always periods of stepping back, retreating, going inward, reevaluating, and then at the end of the retrograde, then we realign. And karmically speaking, spiritually speaking, that's just how it evolves anyway. And check where Leo is in your chart, check your heart. All right, July 22nd is when Venus will officially station retrograde. She stations retrograde at 28 degrees and 36 minutes of Leo, again on July 22nd at 9:33 p.m. Eastern Time to be exact. And then immediately after, the sun is going to enter Leo. So again, Leo, the heart, the focus is on the heart. You're likely going to be feeling very emotional, very passionate, like you're waking up from a deep slumber, and that might not always feel great because it's going to be forcing you to sit up and take notice of something or some things within your relationships, relationship dynamics, relationship to self, some things that you might not want to deal with, but it's necessary. Remember that. A really good time to be journaling, even one sentence a day, just so you can track back and see like, oh my gosh, that's what was going on. This is quite literal. And then on the 23rd, we're also going to have Pluto squaring the North and South node. So again, we're going to be reminded of our deepest desires and where we're holding ourselves back and where we really want to propel forward and what might be blocking us. It's going to feel intense. It's going to feel hot. It's going to feel heated. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing because we need our feet to the fire to make changes, right? So you'll definitely be feeling this. It is definitely a hot summer, summer of love, summer of drama, summer of cinematics, where you are the star, where your heart is the star, your heart's taking center stage. If one or more of your close relationships are undergoing really challenging times, the Venus retrograde point is going to likely put it out there for you about if this can be worked on and worked through, or it's going to become really obvious of where maybe it cannot, okay? So again, this is to help you to decide or to make that decision of either parting ways with someone or something, saying goodbye, or working on it further, but it's very, very karmic, okay? So anything that comes and goes under Venus retrograde has a sense of karma attached to it, fate. Now, some astrologers will tell you don't start a relationship under Venus retrograde. Look, if you meet somebody under Venus retrograde and you're interested and they seem really great, just take your time and move through it slowly to get to know them. Because once Venus goes direct, you'll see it more clearly. So it doesn't mean don't do it. It just means be more cognizant of it, okay? Because again, the planet of love is backwards. Same thing goes with large financial investments because Venus rules over finances. You're probably not going to want to do anything new under the Venus retrograde, but if it's already existing and you're modifying, that's okay. You may just want to wait till Venus stations direct to move forward with it. And if you can't, you just remain more aware. That's all. Now also, there's a little known phenomenon that tends to happen even more so than Mercury retrograde. Past lovers, even past friends, karmic, okay, karmic situations come back around. And here's the thing that I've noticed with Venus retrograde. Let's say you had a falling out with a really close friend, okay? Because friendships are intimate. So you have a falling out with a really close friend and there wasn't really any closure. And it's been something that you've been upset about. Don't be surprised if that friend happens to reach out to you or if you happen to run into them, okay? And here's the thing. This is where it gets tricky while Venus is retrograde. If somebody or something comes back into your life during the retrograde, it doesn't mean it's meant for you to engage in it again or to rekindle the relationship. 9 times out of 10, it's for closure for your own heart, your own soul, okay? So that you can be at peace, so that you can move forward with peace and authenticity, knowing that you've said or done what you need to say or do for yourself. It's karmic. And same goes for the other party involved. So just keep that in mind with Venus retrograde when someone or something comes back from the past, goes from the past. Always happens under Venus retrograde. Not always, but a lot of the times. And another thing while we're talking about this, it's not only about relationships under the Venus retrograde, it also has to do with aesthetics. So if you've been wanting to have cosmetic dental surgery, for example, or a nose job, or fillers or Botox for the first time, under Venus retrograde, I highly suggest that you don't do these things, especially if it's brand new to you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to turn out poorly, but the likelihood of having something botched is stronger under Venus retrograde, okay? That's just the way it goes. Or the potential for you not to like it, or for it not to be what you initially thought that it would be. That's really strong, that's higher. It increases the chances of doing something that we might later regret, or that might not work out the best for us. So again, elective cosmetic surgery. You may want to hold off until Venus is direct. So I'd probably avoid it like a week prior to Venus's actual station. Actually, scratch that. From July 10th to September 20th, if you can avoid elective cosmetic surgery, especially if it's something new to you that you've never done, I would hold off until after September 20th. That's just my advice. You don't have to take it. You don't have to listen to me. As always, listen to what resonates with you. See what speaks to your soul. What do you feel intuitively? If you want to do something and you feel like it'll be fine, go for it, because it very well might be fine, but it also very well might not be what you thought or what you want it to be. So just keep that in mind. Hey, I don't make the rules. I just remind you of things. Forewarned is forearmed. Now, if you have Venus retrograde by birth, if you were born under the Venus retrograde, you've got a lot of strong karma attached to connection and intimacy and love in this lifetime. And that's going to be a whole nother video. In fact, I might do that video. So if you were born under Venus retrograde and you like that, just sound off below. And I'll definitely do a video on that because there's so much I can say about Venus retrograde at birth. I actually work with a lot of clients to shift that relationship karma and work through these intimacy issues, or blockages, as I say, by this placement in their birth chart. All right, so Venus will be retrograde again from July 22nd until September 3rd. Okay, now I also want to pull focus onto August 13th. Now I know I'm jumping ahead, but August 13th is a really, really sweet spot of the Venus retrograde because this is where Venus lines up with the sun for her inferior conjunction known as cazimi. And this is where Venus passes through the heart of the sun. Anytime a planet passes through the heart of the sun and has its cazimi moment, the properties of that planet are just amplified and they're illuminated by the sun's energy, the warmth, the radiance of the sun. This is super significant because we're dealing with Leo energy, which is warmth and radiance and heart-centered energy. So there could be some really sweet moments that occur for you under this energy, but you have to be aware of it. Again, this is going to be on August 13th that we have the Venus cazimi. That's a beautiful energy. And this is the metamorphosis of Venus, okay? And it's literal because Venus literally goes from an evening star to a morning star, where she ascends to a morning star. So she starts the retrograde as an evening star, and as she progresses through the sky, she builds, she grows, she evolves into that morning star, and then she reemerges as a morning star. And the metamorphosis of Venus has taken place. And when you think about that spiritually, that's going to apply to you by where this Venus retrograde has occurred, what it's brought up. You're reborn at the end of the Venus cycle. So at the end of this transit, you're going to look back upon your own personal metamorphosis that has taken place. And Venus will station direct on September 3rd at 12 degrees and 12 minutes of Leo at 9:20 p.m. Eastern time. And at the end of this Venus retrograde, a lot will likely have changed where it involves your prosperity, your true happiness, your fulfillment, what you've attained or what you're soon to attain, what you've been manifesting, what you've been working on in matters of the heart. It's a wake-up call, a gentle wake-up call, personal growth. Trust your intuition throughout this process, okay? Because remember, at the end of the day, Venus wants us to be happy. Venus wants us to have what we desire. But first we have to get in touch with that and shift whatever is standing in the way of truly connecting to our own heart and to truly having what it is that we desire. Now let's go through Venus retrograde by sign. And I'd like you to follow your rising sign, okay, for highest accuracy. If you are an Aries rising, this Venus retrograde is going to take place in your 5th house. So this is a wonderful time to get in touch with your own creative energy, to nurture your creative energy, your creative projects, work on them, fine-tune them. Be sure to dress up and go out, especially if you're out there looking for love. This is a time to go glam if you're Aries, because Venus and Leo is supporting you, and even through the retrograde, it's going to be supporting you. But you have to take the steps. Tend to your inner child, because we're dealing with the 5th house, which speaks to our own children, children in our lives, but more importantly, that inner child. Honor your inner child. Where have you been ignoring him or her? Hug that inner child. Give it the love, attention, energy, and affection that he or she deserves, because then you're that much more equipped to give it to someone else and to accept it from others. And I think it's really important, if you're Aries rising, to recognize where you might not have gotten attention in your youth. Spotlight the ways in which you feel you did not receive attention. It's really important to acknowledge and honor that. It's only going to make you stronger and help you to recognize some of your own relationship dynamics. You could also have new love come into your life. This is the 5th house. This is all about romance. This is about pleasure. This is about flirting. This is about play. If you're Aries rising and you're looking to get pregnant, Venus is all about fertility and abundance, but it is retrograde. So it might not work out during the retrograde, so don't panic. But there's something here about fertility, pregnancy. Could be the birth of a business. It doesn't necessarily have to be a child. Lots of creative energy here, and you're going to be really reevaluating your relationship to all of this as well, Aries. Taurus rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be moving through your 4th house, okay? This is very personal. This is going to feel very emotional. You could have a lot coming up to the surface regarding one or more important relationships, significant relationships within your family unit. It could be a parent. Now that parent might be not even on this earth plane any longer, but something is coming up for you regarding these relationships. What are your deep-rooted beliefs around love? They come in through your lineage, through your ancestry. That's the 4th house. This is deep, intense, emotional purging that you're doing. It's also a great time to tend to your personal space, to tend to your nest. The 4th house is our physical home, so you might literally be redecorating, remodeling, repainting, bringing in more color, doing things to make you feel more secure, more safe in your environment. It's a great time to restore your natural radiance, and if you've been wanting to put yourself in some form of therapy, also a really great time for you to do so, because again, I just feel like a lot's going to be coming up for you regarding your family of origin. Could also be family of choice, but I really do feel like this is family of origin for the Taurus rising. Remember, the 4th house is very personal. Venus is your planetary ruler, so whatever Venus does becomes that much more important for you, Taurus. So honor what comes up for you. Feel it all. Feel the emotion. Lean into it. You'll only come out stronger for it in the long run and feel more secure, which is one of your key words, security. Gemini rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 3rd house. So the way that you communicate on the everyday, the way that you communicate with your siblings, your cousins, your friends, the people within your community, your day-to-day contacts. I would say if you're Gemini rising, dress up, go out. If you normally go and get the mail in your sweatpants, maybe throw on a nice dress. Do things a little different. Don't be afraid to go off the grain. Chat with your neighbors, even if you've never done so before. Connect more intimately, more authentically than you ever have before. Something about Gemini energy is they can pretty much talk to anybody and everybody, but they don't necessarily go deep. And there could sometimes be a superficiality attached to this. Under the Venus retrograde, challenge yourself to truly connect more. Don't just talk to talk. Talk to listen, talk to connect. If you're not doing that, somebody's likely going to bring it to your attention, and it's probably going to be a sibling or somebody like a sibling, a friend that you're close with. They're going to let you know, hey, I think you're really superficial sometimes. Can we talk deeper? It could be something like that. Also, this could center around your daily schedule, your chores, the things that you're doing on the day-to-day. Change it up. I do feel like for the Gemini risings, your siblings are going to factor into this transit strongly, especially if you have communication issues with one or more. It doesn't have to be an actual sibling. It could be a cousin, or it could be a friend that can kind of fall into that category, or even a neighbor. But there will likely be some communication situations that come up for you under this Venus retrograde for you to move through, for you to deal with. And also travel could be involved here as well for you. Cancer rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 2nd house. So your personal finances are really going to be being reevaluated and reviewed under this retrograde cycle. If you've been overspending, you're going to recognize it. If you've been underspending and you maybe want to spend a little more, that's going to come into your awareness. Something about your own self-worth, your self-esteem, your values. You'll be going around and around about this under this Venus retrograde. This is about your resources, your talents, the way that you work with them or the way that you don't. This is all about your value. So be kind to yourself under this Venus retrograde. Pamper yourself. Go and get a massage. Splurge a little bit. You'll be glad that you did. And it's really important if you're Cancer rising going through this transit that when you feel like you're getting really down on yourself, think about what you're really good at, okay? And try to find a way to capitalize off of that, to capitalize off of your natural talents. Go into the heart and be honest with yourself. This reminds me of Judge Judy, whom I love. She talks about this. I saw one of her podcasts, one of her TED Talks, I think, where she was saying that always find what you're good at. We all have something that we're naturally good at, okay? Find what you're good at and perfect your craft, even if you don't ever intend to use it, because someday you're going to need it. That's what this reminds me of for you, Cancer rising. Play to the back of your baseball card. Know thyself, know thy worth. Leo rising, all eyes are on you under this retrograde, okay? First of all, if you're out there looking for love, you're going to be shiny. All eyes are on you even more than normal, center stage, flamboyant, shiny, beautiful. Your charisma is at an all-time high, but you have to be careful that you don't go overboard here, okay? With the ego, we want to watch the ego. We want to keep it in check. We want to watch our pride so that we don't piss people off, because there is a strong potential for a lot of drama for you, Leo. And in some cases, you might need that to propel you forward. But you are the star of the show. Your relationships are extremely significant. Whatever's coming in, whatever's going out, whatever situations are coming up, issues, they're that much more significant over these next couple of months. This is your personal world. This is very personal. This is a strong glow up energy for you if you handle it the right way. If you don't let your ego get the best of you. You are sparkling. A great time for pleasure and connection. A great time to get back in touch with your soul and your spirit. Maybe you go on a solo retreat to reclaim your heart. That would be wonderful. Or you take your new lover with you. Whatever it is, Venus is on your side. Venus is supporting you, but it is a retrograde. So we have to remain aware of everything going on and our part in the story. And yes, while we honor our own heart, Leo, that's amazing, but honor the needs and the heart of others as well. And for some of you, this goes without saying, you may be ending a very significant chapter in your life, but it's going to bring forth magnificent new beginnings. Virgo rising, this Venus retrograde is moving through your 12th house of behind the scenes. This is where we tend to our spiritual self, okay? Our soul. This is where we go into what I call soul solitude, our retreat. This is your inner world, your inner landscape. A lot of emotional processing going on for you under this Venus retrograde if you're Virgo rising. Any fears that you have around intimacy, they're going to come up like a really big monster so that you can slay the monster. You're going to be offered opportunities to slay that monster. Commitment may haunt you, either a commitment that you're currently in or commitment that you want to be in. So you have a wonderful opportunity to take your time to go inward, to process the way you are with intimacy, with connection, with your own well-being in relation to this. And you get to reset how you approach intimacy. And somebody might be coming into your life to help you to do that, but you have to recognize it. It could even be somebody coming back around from the past to help you to move through this and close that door for good, so that you can let that intimacy in that you so deeply desire and crave. By the end of this Venus retrograde, you're going to feel very revitalized as long as you take the time to go inward. Libra rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be moving through your 11th house. It is going to be shining a light onto your friendships, the groups that you're a part of, any networking opportunities that you have. So there's something here about reaching out to those that you might have fallen out of touch with, maybe correcting some wrongs, restoring harmony and or balance within one or more relationships in your life, a friendship. But there's also a strong energy of cutting ties with a specific friendship, or even more than one, where you know you've outgrown it, where you are no longer on the same wavelength, the same frequency, the same vibration. And it's important to keep in mind that this is necessary endings. This Venus retrograde is really going to be bringing up strong feelings regarding mutuality, sharing, balance within friendships, within personal relationships, especially in one or more of your friendships. Reciprocity is going to be at the forefront. What is the giving and receiving like within your important relationships? What are the relationship dynamics like in your current reality? Remember, Libra, Venus is your planetary ruler. So if you are a Libra rising, that means that Venus is your chart ruler. So everything that Venus does becomes ultra important for you. Every move that Venus makes. So all eyes are on you, but you get to decide if you want to keep things the same or if you want to restore balance. And with that said, that often requires you to cut a relationship loose or walk away from a one-sided relationship, friendship, romantic liaison, whatever it is. You're likely going to also feel more introverted under this transit, like you're really processing these relationships in your life. This is also a great time to practice working within your boundaries. First, you have to identify your boundaries, and then you have to practice working within them. And this will also help you to work through any relationship issues that come up under the retrograde. And really important for you, Libra, is don't be afraid to say no. It will likely come to the forefront where you might be saying yes just to keep the peace within one or more of your important relationships. So honor what comes up for you. Honor when things go wrong, and honor that when they go wrong, it's typically because you said no when your instinct was to say yes. Follow your heart. Libras are more heady than they are hearty. Follow your heart more. Venus is encouraging that for you. Scorpio rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be moving through your 10th house. So when it comes to matters of career, public image, reputation, all eyes could be on you. Now, that might not be for the best reasons, but it also can be. You can be the star of the show. When it comes to your public face, when it comes to your work, when it comes to what you are putting out into the universe, into the world, there could be a lot of pleasure experienced, a lot of connection experienced. There could be lots of collaborations that come up. And on the other side of that, there could be collaborations that you are cutting ties with because they're just not working for you or for where you want to go. So first, it's about honoring and identifying where you want to go, and then working with and ridding yourself of anything that does not support your goals or that trajectory for you. You can really shine professionally, but you have to make sure that your motives are in the right place. Take time under this retrograde to validate and to honor your own progress and your own successes. Acknowledge how far you've come. And if some obstacles present themselves to you in the realm of your career, just trust that once Venus gets moving forwards again, by mid-September, you'll have some answers. The way will become clear again. Sagittarius rising, this Venus retrograde is going to take place in your 9th house. This is all about adventure and exploration. Venus is in Leo. It's a fellow fire sign, so you've got this support of Venus in Leo, encouraging you to get out there and explore, encouraging you to get out there and go on an adventure. It's encouraging your expansion. There's also this element of connecting to something much greater than yourself. So there's a sense of spiritual evolution that's attached to this transit for you, Sag. You're connecting with something greater than yourself. You're connecting to the divine. Your spiritual practices are getting stronger. Perhaps your own psychic abilities are growing stronger. This is a great time for you to learn to read tarot cards, for example, or just begin to study astrology if that's something that you've always wanted to do. The retrograde is a great time that supports this for you because if you're feeling the connection, the calling to it, if it's something that you like, Venus, right? If it's something that you're finding pleasing, it's a great time to expand upon it. It's also a time to rid yourself of outdated beliefs about yourself and about others, about your relationships. And it's really important to acknowledge your own wanderlust, your own roaming nature. Now, this Venus retrograde is taking place in the 9th house, and that's the natural home for Sagittarius. So there is this sense of expansion here, no matter what you do. And so even if you have to leave something behind, it's expanding your consciousness. It would also be a great time for you to go on some sort of spiritual retreat in a faraway land, if that's permissible for you at this time. It could be really beneficial for your own growth, for your own heart, for your own soul. Capricorn rising, this Venus retrograde is going to be traveling through your 8th house. This can feel a little uncomfortable for you. What could really come up for you under the retrograde is any collaborations that you are a part of, anything having to do with business, shared resources that you have with others. I do feel like some of the Capricorn risings are going to be dealing with divorce issues or the division of assets. It could have to do with a family situation. It could have to do with the death of a family member, an inheritance. You could be dealing with back taxes or debts. This could come up for you. It might not feel very fun, but it's something that you have to go through. Also, the 8th house is all about sex, okay? Intimacy, bonding. So your own hang-ups in these areas could really be coming to the forefront under this retrograde. Go deep and try to move into what might be blocking you or stopping you from co-creating with others. Is it a fear of intimacy? Is it a fear of being screwed over? Did something happen to you that holds you back? Only you're going to know that. Venus retrograde is asking you to dig deep here, to honor your deepest desires, emotionally, and especially physically, anything having to do with intimacy. And because the 8th house does deal with finances that we receive through others, so this is loans, this is debts, this is banking, this is investments. A lot could be coming up for you financially under this retrograde as well, especially with properties or anything financial that you share with others, collaboration. By the end of this transit, you're going to have a lot being brought to the surface for you in regards to spiritual value and material value. How do we balance the two? Because yes, it's important to have our material worth, but it's even more important to have that richness of the soul, that spiritual worth. And a lot will likely happen for you under this retrograde to remind you of that true connection to the heart, to the self, and to others. You may be dealing with grief that you thought you processed. It's okay, allow it to come up for airtime. Again, this will be an intense Venus retrograde for you, Capricorn, but you're well equipped to handle it, and you're gonna come out stronger for it. And deeper intimacy awaits, and stronger collaborations. Aquarius rising, this Venus retrograde is moving through your relationship house, the 7th house. This is all about our one-on-one communications, our one-on-one relationships with others. This is about contracts and negotiations. If you're dealing with any legal matters, it's going to be highlighted under this Venus retrograde, especially if it's financial. Some of you might be going through a divorce, you might be going through a divorce settlement, and then something crops back up for you under the retrograde to go back over with a fine-tooth comb. So don't be afraid to do that. Revise everything. Also, this is going to be a time where you're going to be circling back around to any and all relationship issues, even those that you thought were buried. They're going to come back up again. The skeletons are going to fall out of the closet for you to contend with. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's also going to be necessary. Now, positively speaking, this could be a very delightful and joyous time for you, Aquarius, if you're out there looking for love. Leo is your opposite. You know, opposites attract. So get your glow on, put on your most sparkly outfit, get out there, wear the lipstick, eat the caviar, do the things. If you're looking to attract a partner, go out of your comfort zone. And if you're not looking to attract a partner, still go out of your comfort zone. Nothing bad is going to come of that except for growth. But again, relationship issues are going to circle back around. So if you've been connecting with the intellect more than with the heart, you're going to be reminded of that. You might have to contend with some really deep feelings, some really deep emotions that come to you from another person. They're going to want you to honor and recognize this. You're going to have to honor and recognize it. You're also going to be honoring and recognizing your own true feelings. Again, uncomfortable but necessary. Pisces rising, this Venus retrograde is going to take place in your 6th house. So this pulls into focus our own physical wellness and well-being, our daily work life, our daily service, also our daily habits and routines. What feels good? Under this Venus retrograde, you're going to be asked to determine, to decipher what feels good. You're going to be reevaluating your relationship to structure, to order, to discipline, your own physical body, the need to rest and restore the body. Pisces is a sign that's all about the spirit. It's all about the intuition, the unconscious realms. It's all about the spiritual healing. And this Venus retrograde is going to show you where you actually have to tend to the physical, okay? The physical body, the physical healing, getting more in touch, more in tune. What really feels good and right for you? Old habits sometimes die hard, and that's what this Venus retrograde is going to bring up for you in the way of your own personal health, personal wellness, personal daily reality. You might find that the inner critic is really, really strong for you under this retrograde cycle, especially when it comes to relationship dynamics. You're going to have the tendency to blame yourself for everything. But again, in order to silence that inner critic, you have to acknowledge it and tend to it first. You have to recognize where we're doing this. You can't be the victim, okay? Don't play victim. If you find yourself doing that, remember my words and dig into the dynamics and figure out where this is coming from so that you can move forward in peace. Remember, the physical body is very much linked to the emotional body. So if we're not processing our emotions out in a very direct manner, if we're keeping it all inside, that manifests physically. So again, you may have something come up for you under this retrograde that reminds you of why. You may be struggling with anxiety. Lean into it. Great time to put yourself into some form of therapy if necessary. And don't be afraid to connect to those closest to you. They want to help you, Pisces. And there is Venus retrograde through all 12 signs. Again, remember, I offer private consultations if you'd like a reading. The link is below in the description box.